Well, one thing we're hoping that people will say about Our Lady of Lake Parish is that it is the super soaker of the West Side, and that we are going to saturate this city with the waters of mercy. And we hope that they will say that people at Our Lady Lake, and let's say especially the young adults and the teenagers and preteens, that you guys are all, if you know this big word, pyromaniacs. Anybody know what a pyromaniac is? Yes, young man. That's right, somebody who likes fire. Somebody who likes to set fires. So we want to be a whole bunch of holy pyromaniacs setting this world ablaze with the fire of divine love. Anyone who's visiting with us, and we're glad you're here and welcome you, just explain two things. This Sunday evening Mass is our Life Teen Mass. So even though we're all children of God, we focus our energies on our younger parishioners, young adult and teenage and preteen in this Mass. And then also for Lent, and now with Easter as a pivot to Pentecost, we have been worshiping with the theme Waters of Mercy and Fire of Divine Love. And we've already experienced those waters through our Lenten disciplines and calling to mind Jesus' merciful decision to undergo his suffering and death. And then the fire of love, somewhat symbolized by the flame of the Easter candle. And then looking forward to the image of the Holy Spirit appearing as of tongues of fire at Pentecost. We're now kind of pivoting into the season of the fire of divine love, but we're not leaving behind us that image of waters of mercy. And so, young people, we need you in order for this to succeed. We need your energy, we need your ideas, we need your involvement in what we are calling a day. Well, I'm calling it this. Nobody else called it this until I did today so far at our homilies. A Day of Mercy is going to be Saturday, June 7th, when that's the Saturday before Pentecost, when we are trying to get as many parishioners as possible, and I'm assuming Jason and the ambassadors are working on this to get as many of the young people involved as well, that we're going to go out. We're not just going to be in this, in fact, we're not going to be in this building at all, actually. We're going to go out wherever we can find a chance and a place to do one of what's called the 7 corporal works of mercy. And that's something that young people, you may not have heard about, because we used to learn about that when a lot of your parents or grandparents or slightly older people like me, when we were your age, they hammered that into us, the corporal works of mercy and the spiritual works of mercy. But it's kind of fallen out of being talked about. But we're bringing it back, and we're going to unleash a flood. That's why I say we're going to be like the super soaker of the West Side, that the waters of mercy are going to flood our region by what we do on that Saturday. And I tell you, this world needs to be soaked and saturated and washed clean by those waters of mercy. And our young people are probably more aware of it in some ways than the rest of us, because for all of you, even in your, say, early to mid-20s and younger, you have faced quite a world. And certainly every age has its struggles and its problems, but I think sometimes we can't really imagine how it's been for you all to grow up in the kind of world that we're facing right now. And I think of this because of a letter to the editor that was published back in early March in a British newspaper, and they had just run a story called Moods and Meltdowns, What's Inside the Teenage Brain? And one teenager wrote this letter, You can find it. If you just search 16-year-old angry letter, you will find, okay? And one reporter from another British paper who did a tweet about it, the last time I looked before I came to Mass, it had something like 20-some thousand favorites and 18,000 retweets or vice versa. So this is really striking home. So this is just a part of what this young person wrote. And keep in mind, this is a British 16-year-old. He said, "Sir, I am getting increasingly annoyed at the barrage of articles about teenagers and the adults who keep trying to explain our behavior. I am 16 and a straight A student, like most of my friends. We are not as irrational and immature as adults seem to think. We've grown up with financial crises and accept that most of us may be unemployed. And even though I know there are younger children here with us today, I'm going to go ahead and read this sentence the way this young person wrote it. We no longer flinch at bloody images of war because we've grown up seeing the chaos in the Middle East and elsewhere. Most of us are cynical and pessimistic because of the environment we've grown up in, which should be an explanation enough for our apparent insolence and disrespect without quote-unquote experts having to write articles about it. Has no one ever seen that we are angry at the world we live in, angry that we will have to clean up your mess while you hold us in contempt, analyzing our responses as though we were another species? I would like adults to treat us not as strange creatures from another world, but as human beings with intelligent thought. A little different from yours, perhaps, but intelligent thought nonetheless. Stop teaching adults how to behave around us, and instead teach them to respect us." So all of these things that this young person has grown up with and all of you have, believe me, Jesus it's breaking his heart the way the world is today. And that's why he came. And that's why he was willing to suffer. And that's why he wanted to share the power of his resurrection in the world and to continue to share that power. Because I've said this image before, the kind of things that this young person is talking about shows that the world is upside down. The world is messed up. And Jesus, the revolutionary, he came along to smack the world back upside right, to spin it back up to be the way it's supposed to be. But ever since he went to eternity, and wherever you want to say about him going in the ascension, that he's not here on earth physically in his body anymore, we are all he's got to keep this revolution of getting the world back to the way it's supposed to be. God wants you, young people. He needs you, so that then when this young person and you all, when you have kids, they won't have to write a letter to the editor like this, because you would have done something to flood the world with the mercy of God. You would have joined in this revolution to saturate the world with the waters of God's mercy. You would have let Jesus alive in you, especially those of you who are going to be confirmed on tomorrow. That's a new fire of divine love that's going to be set ablaze in you. That's a new flood of God's mercy, not just for your sake, but to flow from your hearts into this world that needs you so badly to join this revolution. Father John and I are going to be talking about one way to get the world back in shape, one way to change, to let Jesus use you to change this world, are by this traditional thing called the 7 corporal works of mercy. And I want to have all of you, if you grabbed one of the worship leaflets, please either look at that or share it with somebody. In the center panel, we have a list of those 7 corporal, they're called corporal because they're bodily things, physical things that we do to help. So we're going to do a preaching series starting today on the 7 corporal works of mercy. So I want to have us all recite those maybe from memory if you're of a certain age, but if not, we have the little cheat sheet there. So I'm going to say it and then ask you to repeat it, either from hearing me say it and or from the list there in the worship pamphlet. The 7 corporal works of mercy: to feed the hungry, to give drink to the thirsty, to clothe the naked, to visit the imprisoned, to shelter the homeless, to visit the sick, and to bury the dead. And we're going to be repeating that each Sunday, so I'll warn you, give you a forewarning of that, and see if you can memorize it. And over the next several weekends, either Father John or I will be exploring some of those. I'm supposed to talk a little bit about visiting the imprisoned today, but I don't have time. But I would say this, young people, and then say parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents and teachers if you're here. Those of you who, young adults or older, who are volunteering to help with Life, Teen, and Edge. Our young people, in a sense, are imprisoned in the stuff that's going on in the world today, and the temptation, like the person who wrote this letter, to give in to a real pessimistic, cynical, hopeless attitude. So one act of mercy for us is to help them break out of that before it becomes a lifelong habit. And young people, you can help one another get out of that prison, not get trapped by a cynical, hopeless, sarcastic, mean-spirited, angry view of things, but instead say to yourself, I'm going to do something about it. Instead of whining and complaining about the way the things are in the world today, young people, you can say, I am going to be somebody who helps change it. I'm going to let Jesus set my heart on fire with his divine love. I'm going to let Jesus soak me and fill me with that water of mercy so that it can't help but flow out to other people around me, even to your peers, that you could be a source of hope and change for them, and not just giving in to a sad, angry letter writing like this young person. Certainly uphold them for having the courage to write it, but it'd be much better to try to do something about it, and not just tell us adults that we mess things up, but instead start now to help things get back the right way. So we will have this, as this is a day of mercy called Divine Mercy Sunday, in our image there, which we'll bless later, of the Divine Mercy, and a season of mercy between now and Pentecost weekend. Let that launch all of us into a lifetime of mercy. Mercy on the world, and working to change the world, get it back upside right to the way Jesus wants it to be, and needs you to make it happen.